if we ever get there, because these questions, like to one day talk to a person who has a hand in answering these production questions would be really valuable.
I almost got us an interview with somebody from The Garden, but that didn't work out. That's a wild story I can't tell on the podcast, but if anyone sees me in the real world, ask me about the Garden guy.
Welcome to Cult Favorite, the podcast that has no connections to the royal family. I'm Myrna Simmons.
No connections that we know of. And I'm Mike Altman. We are two religious studies professors trying to understand all of these cult documentaries that you can't stop binge watching. And we have
Catherine Oxenberg is the one who has
Oh,
connections.
I was supposed to explain this? I was going to get there.
We will get there. I just always feel so squirrely at the very beginning about having like a little inside joke if someone doesn't get it. I always have.
So what I've read on the internet says that to build a successful podcast, you have to build community. And so these inside jokes are part of that.
What? I don't want someone to feel like they have to watch the documentary to listen to us.
Oh yeah,
though.
That's true. But,
I don't know.
But no,
I guess I just always, I'm such a middle child. I just want everybody to feel okay all the time.
We will get to.
So I'm like, here's what it is. Here's actually.
Yeah. We will get to Princess Elizabeth of Yugoslavia,
whose second cousin is now king.
Yeah.
Then Prince Charles.
Yes. Also part of my favorite, probably one of my favorite scenes in all of these episodes we'll get to with her and Catherine Oxenberg.
Like,
remember we didn't talk for 2 decades?
Show called Dynasty.
That's right.
It was a very different kind of dynasty.
A different dynasty. Yes.
Anyway. Okay. Now that I have that handled, thank you. I can breathe deeply. We can move on.
Are you a footnotes over endnotes person?
Usually.
Yeah. I agree.
Usually.
See, it shows.
It's because I have to.
I don't want to wait to the end to figure out where that came from.
Yeah. Anyway.
If you want to support the show, follow us on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. That's really it. I guess Facebook, at Cult Favorite Pod. And be sure to subscribe to the show. Leave us a rating and a review.
We take comments too. You almost said comments.
Yes, we'll take comments.
We take notes.
Content warning, there'll be some discussion of sexual abuse because that's kind of what this whole thing was about. We're doing the vow.
Yes, we are.
We've talked about this, I think, since we started a year ago.
Yeah.
What do you feel squirrely about doing?
Well, just because it's so much.
It is a lot.
I don't know that the story is necessarily more than other stories that we've managed.
Yeah.
We'll
get to the question of magnitude like significance is, I think, important here.
Do you feel like the vow, I mean, it was made in 2020.
Yes.
For HBO Max. But it wasn't, so if it was made in 2020, it's certainly not the first like cult documentary.
Yeah, I was thinking about this.
I still feel like it's sort of the documentary that launched 1,000 documentaries.
I don't know that it's like the first, but it's like, I think the prototypical, like it has all of the elements that everything else has. Mm-hmm. It was filmed mostly, I think, in 2018, 2017, 2018 into 2019, and then came out in 2020, right? Like mid-pandemic.
Mm-hmm. That's why we all watched The Vow.
That's why it is.
Sure.
So it has these connects, but it also has.
I hadn't really thought. It
also has a lot about 2016 election stuff in it. That's in the backdrop for it.
Yeah.
And so it is in
That's why we watched it.
Yes,
the world was falling apart. We needed a story that made us feel at least like our world wasn't falling apart. Like some people's worlds were falling apart. Or I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. And all of the stuff about who joins a cult.
Sure.
Blame and like all of it. It's all very 2020. And very post 2016. So I think that's a huge part of it. But then it also, I think, plays on. I think go back to the Going Clear episode if you're listening to this or watching this, and I think that to me is sort of the That's the text.
Okay. When was that made?
2016.
Okay.
So that was, I think, because that was the one that combined the election language,
right?
But then had a whole lot of other stuff was a big thing that we all kind of knew about.
Yeah.
Like, Wild Wild Country's up there too, but I think anyways, these are questions. It's like someone should write a book or something that accounts for this phenomenon.
We're working on it.
What did you know about this before it came out?
I mean, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about it until the documentary came out. And then I totally watched the documentary, and I had not really pieced in my brain, like, we were all, I mean, the thing I remember watching, there was a lot of nostalgia viewing during lockdown for me. Mm-hmm. I rewatched every single episode of Columbo. I have loads of things to say about that. Maybe that could be my cult favorite since I'm struggling to find.
One more question.
God. One more thing. Just one more thing. I also rewatched movies like Heathers, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of nostalgia viewing, but I definitely watched The Vow, and it was new to me. Like, I'd never heard of the group, but it sounds, like you said, like it hits a lot of the like guideposts that we've come to think of in relation to new religious movements, but also MLMs, but also exploitive corporate practices, but also. So, it's
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it until I didn't watch it when it came out. This was this watching.
What were you watching during lockdown? What was your comfort viewing?
I watched Tiger King, but I watched a lot of Bachelor in Paradise.
Sure.
That was when I got so
yours was more like escapist.
I made during lockdown.
I guess mine was too.
We made friends with our neighbors.
Okay.
Who and had not ever hung out with them before, and then during lockdown we started using our backyard and like as like a chill spot. So like that was like we became friends through lockdown.
Yeah.
And they were the ones who were like, "Oh, you like pro wrestling? Have you watched Bachelor in Paradise?"
I see.
And then away we go.
Okay.
So they're the ones who like ruined my life. As I'm trying to finish,
I'll have to
about to finish the season finale of Love Island right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that really got you down. That started you down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Okay. So that Blind Date.
I'm sure someone has written some kind of like, I don't know, interesting think piece about lockdown viewing.
Probably.
And
then I did watch. I watched a lot of old back catalog pro wrestling.
Okay.
Whatever.
Anyway, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Tell us about The Vow. We are only talking about season 1.
Yes.
And once upon a time, we would have, like, I think probably pretty naturally said, this is a 2-parter. And we're going to do season 1 on part 1 and season 2 on part 2.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we're doing that.
We may never do season 2.
We may never talk about season 2, but we should at least, I've watched season 2. You've not watched season 2.
No, I couldn't do it.
Okay.
I was like,
Well, I guess, so in case we never get there, we do. I feel like this is like going ahead and telling you the punchline of an inside joke. But season 2 gives us more of the like, perspective of people who still want to defend Keith Raniere.
Right.
And so I just want to put that out there.
I'm tempted to go watch the episode with Nancy Salzman because I find her way more fascinating than Keith Raniere for a number of reasons that will maybe come up in this conversation.
Yeah. Anyway, season one is all we're talking about. I just wanted to make sure that.
So season 1, what it covers is it follows a handful of NXIVM members of pretty high rank who decide to leave the company around 2017-ish, 18-ish, it looks like. They decide they're going to reveal its abusive practices and leadership and then try to take it down. And then also Catherine Oxenberg is on a quest to save her daughter India from the group as well. And they all join ranks into something that I've called both the NXIVMs or the NXIVM Avengers.
Sure. Okay.
I have all sorts of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, specifically, there's a subgroup called DOS.
Yes.
Which is the dominant. It's not dominant over submissive. That was what one person thought it was.
Sorority.
But it's dominant submissive sorority or something like that. But in Latin.
No one learns Latin anymore.
It's
I never learned Latin. But,
So specifically, it's about what was going on in DOS. People trying to.
What it doesn't have, at least season 1, I left with still a lot of questions about who Keith Raniere was.
Okay.
And his backstory and how he got to where other than, so there's some in there, but not as much as I wanted.
Does season 1 cover okay, so I apologize in advance if I'm blurring together too many things. Does season 1 deal with he used to be the head of a company that
Consumer
failed?
Byline. Yes.
That got closed by attorneys general.
But there's a lot there. It gets closed by attorneys general.
22 of them.
But he's never charged with anything. And I'm like, how does that work?
Or at least not that we hear tell
There's
of.
a lot that.
Sure,
also, none of these ideas are his. So I have a whole lot of questions about his sort of intellectual biography and how where this all comes from and how it's put together.
That's so interesting. I like talking to you for lots of reasons, but one of them is because I think our brains work really differently in relation to certain kinds of data sets. I am completely uninterested in that question. I wonder why.
Do you read liner notes? Did you read liner?
Oh yeah, no, I love liner notes.
I feel like that's a liner notes person question. I don't know. I just want to know. I feel like this is clearly all taken. I have so many questions about that that's not in here.
I think it's because that
I want to explain him, I guess, in a certain way that he's left unexplained.
Interesting. I feel like he's I find him so uninteresting.
Well, no. Maybe rephrase that. I don't find him super interesting.
Yeah.
I would not choose him because I find him also derivative. I don't find it interesting. But if you're gonna make
derivative.
Well, yeah.
See, I have way more sympathy for things deemed derivative than a lot of people do. I have much less sympathy for what is Keith Raniere? Dudes who have answers to life questions.
Right. I guess what I'm saying.
I have much less sympathy.
But I guess there's so many dudes with answers, right?
So many.
We chose to spend 9 hours of my life on this dude's answers.
There's a reason we took so long. And I'm like, here.
Can we please explain where this all came from, where he come from, how he became who he is?
Yeah. And compelling and sure.
That was missing.
Okay.
In a certain way.
That's fair. That's all of that.
He's not a well-rounded character in the show.
That is true. And we end season 1 hearing a phone call from him in prison.
Yeah. So
with the implication that we're about to hear his
what I kept coming back to, and the Scientology doc, the Going Clear, the Alex Gibney film, which was one film, not 9 episodes. About a much bigger and more influential.
I don't think it's the documentary's fault. I say yay documentary for milking this story.
Get that bag. It was 2020, whatever.
It's well made.
But yes.
Yeah.
But there was so much more about L. Ron Hubbard in that documentary. And how L. Ron Hubbard became L. Ron Hubbard and where he was borrowing his ideas from.
Okay.
I needed that. 20 minutes of that doc. I needed an episode. And I think there was plenty of opportunity for that here.
Gotcha.
That we didn't get.
And seeing L. Ron Hubbard on the ship in his little cap and stuff and his role in the military.
The woman he just left and all of this stuff. His reading of Freud. And so I think here we didn't get. And I think it's because they didn't have researchers. They just had all the film that Mark.
I don't know. We have. We always talk about bonus episodes that we don't end up making, but eventually I would like to try to get a hold of one of the makers of this documentary because we do have a friend of a friend who could get us in touch, but. We'll see if we ever get there because these questions to one day talk to a person who has a hand in answering these production questions would be really valuable.
I almost got us an interview with somebody from The Garden, but that didn't work out. That's a wild story I can't tell on the podcast, but if anyone sees me in the real world, ask me about the Garden guy.
All right.
Also, they don't talk about and I learned this morning that Mark Vicente was also in another quote unquote cult group called Ramtha before he joined NXIVM. That might come out in season 2. I don't know. It came out on the stand when he was testifying in the trial.
Mark Vicente is our entry point.
Yes.
Who's Mark Vicente? Take us through,
Mark
Mike.
Vicente. Well, I'll go through episode 1. Literally, I wrote my notes. We meet Mark Vicente. So he's a filmmaker. He made the film "What the Bleep Do We Know?" that was one of those movies.
Just "What the Bleep"? What the Bleep do we? I don't know. Anyway,
that was one of those DVDs that I would see at Blockbuster.
Really?
But never.
I had never heard of this. I had never heard of it.
Or never get.
It apparently made like $15 million globally or whatever. It was a thing. It put him on the map. It introduced him to lots of important people or whatever, at least rich and famous people. But I had never heard of it. And so if I really was, able to go down some rabbit holes right now, I would watch it.
But it was a 2004 film. Yeah, I remember seeing it in college at the Blockbuster and being like, that's the kind of movie someone would think I would like that I should want to watch, but I have no interest.
Really? You weren't interested in it?
No.
I would also have said, hey, Mike.
Yeah.
You probably like this film, right?
Mm-mm.
No.
Because I don't know. Okay. It seemed too self-aware. From the cover.
Okay.
He talks about NXIVM. He's introducing us to NXIVM, this human potential self-actualization group that uses therapeutic talking practices and has a hierarchical structure. It attracts a lot of Hollywood types.
Well, and Mark Vicente becomes one of its executive board bigwigs, and he's in the group, I think, for ultimately 12 years.
Yeah. So from 2009, 2009 is when he gets kind of promoted to the board, but for a while, a while. And it's interesting. They do the filmmakers do a good job of there's a lot of slow reveals.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll come back. But yeah, in 2009 he joins the board. We also the episode ends. Oh, all of this is giving very Scientology. The episode ends with a phone conversation between Mark and his wife Bonnie, who is an actress. She was in a Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And Bonnie's expressing misgivings about the group and foreboding mentions of women who have been harmed in some way.
And he's trying to reassure her.
Yes. Was it Boo?
My boo.
Boo
my
and
boo.
Moo? Yeah.
No, it's my boo.
Well, then she calls him Moo.
Oh, does it?
In a couple scenes.
I mean, I don't know.
Because Bonnie and Mark, Boo and Moo.
Oh.
Yeah. Episode 2 is where the cracks. What?
See, that was a relational inside joke that I was very much on the outside. I did not get it.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I just
Thank you.
I noticed her calling him Moo at one point.
Okay.
Yeah. This is so episode 2 is where we start to get the cracks that come to the surface. We get Bonnie's story about how she's being overworked with no pay, which raises a huge question about I know I always say that other people's relationships are a foreign country, but the fact that Mark is on the executive board and they're living together and Bonnie has no money and is being overworked, it was very and Mark's finances are a giant question mark for me.
Everybody seems one of the reasons that I think it's giving Scientology is that everyone seems to have money, and everybody just had money. And I don't, I mean, there were lots of B-list actors, people who had been part of, corporations or people had money.
Yeah.
I don't know, but folks were being very overworked. So, and later we'll find out that there were financial misdeeds,
right.
People saying, you owe us money that you never gave us, whatever. But it seemed like the harm that she was describing was that everyone was, because Mark talks about this too, that everybody was going on no sleep, operating at full tilt all the time. And it was just part of this bigger cause. We've heard that before, but we're not talking with Hillsong. We were talking about college students who were exploited interns, basically. This is not that.
No.
This is very much a similar kind of daily grind practice of you're waking up at 5, you're shoveling breakfast into your face on the way to a thing where you do this, and then you're practice, and then you're and then on to 3 a.m, and then you get an hour of sleep, and then you wake up and you do it all over again. That was Bonnie's description of all this. But it's just that They're people in their 30s with money.
So yeah, finally we see Mark believes Bonnie, and then he confronts Keith about this group of women who are losing weight in an unhealthy way and seem like zombies. Keith deflects, and then eventually Mark resigns from the company, and the episode ends with a conversation between Mark and Sarah, who I haven't mentioned yet, Sarah Edmondson, who's a Canadian actress, who's one of the other main people involved.
Mark brings her in.
They both take over the Vancouver. They establish the center for NXIVM in Vancouver.
Yep.
And the episode ends with a conversation between Mark and Sarah, and the revelation that Sarah was in this group called DOS.
And Sarah is kind of where, I mean, like all of these things are sort of concurrent, themes, but like Sarah is how we start understanding the group as an MLM, because she is someone who makes a lot of, she's a fledgling actress. She's not doing very well. She's feeling unsuccessful. She gets into NXIVM, and you start making money by way of recruitment. So she's recruiting other people to take these workshops that cost thousands of dollars, and you get commission. So
yeah, I was trying to look. There's somewhere where she talked about how many people thousands of people she'd enrolled or whatever.
Anyway,
although more on that later, but the money enrollment question. And then episode 3, we get the full story of DOS, which is the story. This is what becomes the thing that ends up in the newspapers and why everyone knows about NXIVM, the sex cult. And it's revealed through Sarah's story about how invested she was in the company. She's one of their best salespeople, like you just said. She's approached by Lauren Salzman, whose mother, Nancy Salzman, is the co-founder of NXIVM with Keith, and has a very soothing demeanor on video.
Really? You found that soothing? Interesting.
Well, she has a certain kind of smile that that is quite magnetic and reassuring, and actually reminded me of somebody I know who's like a clergy woman.
See, we just have.
It was very funny.
I found her very off-putting, but
I didn't find her like. There was something about her. Was like I could see how someone would find her.
Well, Sarah Edmondson talked about how when she first was introduced to NXIVM, the aesthetic was very 80s.
Yeah,
and I think that's on point. I thought that Nancy Salzman has got a very like 80s group leader kind of vibe.
She does.
Anyway, so DOS is this subgroup of NXIVM.
Right. And it's a pyramid scheme of slaves and masters.
That's what they call themselves.
Yes. She believes at this point it's all women, although we later find out, surprise, surprise, Keith Raniere is at the top of it. And Sarah tells this like gut-wrenching story about this branding ritual that leaves a set of initials on her body. And then she realizes, oh God, they're Keith's initials.
She's not told that they're initials. No. She's told that they are the elements of the earth. It's like, there's the sky, and then the mountains, and then the sea.
Yeah.
But actually, she sees initially AM. Who's AM?
Allie Mack.
Allison Mack is an actress who was on Smallville.
Smallville.
I had never seen any of these shows. I just heard of them. I did not know any of these actors.
Yes.
But
I don't even remember which Star Wars Bonnie was in.
I don't know. Anyway, she sees Allison. She sees AM, but then when it's turned sideways, then it's KR. Right. Keith Raniere. Anyway,
and then we also meet Sarah's husband, Nippy. I forgot. Don't have his full name in my notes, but
his last name is Ames.
Yeah, and Sarah's husband, and we hear him rant. Nippy, I had a soft. I found Nippy. He's such a dude. He's just. I know so many Nippies.
I always love hearing the people that you connect with and like relate to.
Connect.
Not connect to.
I know so many. I know so many Nippies.
I
know so many Nippies.
Yeah. I don't know a lot of Nippies.
There's a lot of evangelical Christian Nippies out there. Oh. Sarah's husband, and he goes off when he finds out. He goes off on Lauren when he finds out, and then the episode ends with Sarah leaving the Vancouver Center, and her and Mark talking about speaking out. Episode 4. All right, I'm trying to go quicker here. Episode 4 is the White Women in Peril episode, and I don't say that to make light of the harm or trauma, but it fits the stereotype of a lot of these. And so Mark, Sarah, Bonnie, and Nippy become a deprogramming team trying to get as many people out of NXIVM as possible. You can call them the NXIVMs.
You could call them that. If you were being
I don't know why no one called it. They didn't call them that.
Okay. I have some ideas.
Episode tells the story of Jane, an anonymous woman who left NXIVM, and India Oxenberg, the daughter of celebrity actress Catherine Oxenberg, Dynasty. And then we hear more details about DOS, about how it worked. A lot of it is just a further explanation and evidence of what Sarah's story already told us.
Well, and specifically, like, not only are they being branded and in some cases sexually assaulted in the process of those branding rituals, but then the relationship that you have to the quote unquote master is that you are asking them permission for literally everything that you do through the day. May I go to sleep now, et cetera, et cetera. You have to be on call all the time.
Yes.
And in particular, you're asking always for permission for every calorie that you consume. So these women were trying to shrink themselves as much as possible. Yeah. So weight and like the way that you're performing devotion, like had a lot to do with body.
We also meet Frank Perlato, who runs the Frank Report, who used to be a publicist for Keith Raniere, but is now trying to take him down and publishing all sorts of salacious. There's things. There's always a Frank Perlato. There's always a blogger. And then the episode ends. So Catherine Oxenberg is trying to convince India to leave. Her daughter, India, says she's not going to. And then we end with Catherine Oxenberg vowing to get her daughter back.
Sure.
Like Liam Neeson. And then episode 5, the NXIVM Avengers decide to go to the cops. In this episode, we meet Kristen Keith, who is like the master of dark arts for NXIVM, who left. She was at the legal. No, like she's the one. Like she's always on the phone. We never see her. Right? She's always on the phone with this kind of slightly gravelly voice. She used to be the legal liaison. So she knows all of Keith's tricks.
And she also used to be one of Keith's partners. Keith has multiple partners throughout the whole evolution of which we kind of come to find out as we go. But Kristen, isn't she the one that is this? She ended up getting pregnant, and that was.
They say, they say that, but they don't say anything else about that whole
what
situation.
Happened. So, I mean, you know.
And then we also, and we learned about that the Vancouver PD may be out to get Sarah with charges brought by NXIVM as retaliation. We learn about the Bronfman sisters, the Seagram heiresses who are bankrolling, I think, all of this.
Most of it, for sure.
Seems like.
Yeah.
And so,
like the corporation they have a lot of money and a lot of people with money, but the Bronfman sisters
I don't know how much money the corporation actually has. That's what I find interesting. But scared by the Vancouver PD situation, the NXIVMs go to the cops, the FBI, but they're not interested at this point.
Yeah.
So they go to the place all overly educated white elites go when they are in trouble, the New York Times. We get a flashback to all of this media strategy that these people have been involved with. I mean, Mark was sort of running this knife media, this sort of media wing of the movement of NXIVM. They tried to get the Dalai Lama to endorse them,
and he did it.
He did eventually.
Eventually.
We also get the point. This was my favorite part. We get the lovely appearance from Princess Elizabeth of Yugoslavia, Catherine Oxenberg's mother. We also get the Dalai Lama. Later, we get, I think I'll come to this. There's another part where Catherine Oxenberg calls her mother and asks her mother to ask Prince Charles to reach out to the Dalai Lama and get him to take
Can
back
you put
his
me in
endorsement.
direct contact with the Dalai Lama because I want to tell him that my daughter is the victim of a sex cult?
Yeah. Please, Prince Charles.
It's good to have connections, I guess.
She's in 2 of these documents. This one and another one, by the way, about this. We also... that knife media thing, there's this like weird clip where they're on Fox News with their objectivity scores of news sites. And then we end up meeting Barry Meyer, the most normal person in this whole documentary. Meyer.
What? Listen to your judgment calls. Stop that. You're trying to hurry.
I'm trying to hurry.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Okay. Am I wrong?
He's the
most like straightforward.
Straightforward is maybe
he stood out. He was starkly kind of like just grounded of anyone else in this whole.
You just don't want to participate in judgment claims about normalcy.
The episode ends with, so we meet him. He's the New York Times reporter. He's working on this. Hopefully, more on him in a second later. The episode ends with a new reveal. Barbara Boucher, a name mentioned earlier in the show, she actually recruited Sarah and Mark.
Yeah,
but never really dwelled on. Well, she is here. Here she is. And she says that she's the first important woman to ever leave NXIVM, and she warns us they're coming for you.
Dun dun dun.
I will give them, every episode ends in this. Like, I love that. Like, you gotta have a good ending to like bring me back to the next episode. Episode 6, all the way back to 2000 to the history of NXIVM, the first set of women who left the company in 2009, and we realize, oh wow, there's this whole group of women a decade ago who left.
Yeah,
that actually Mark and Sarah replaced in their kind of roles in the company.
Correct.
And
they were the people who claimed financial misdeeds from the company and said like, hey, you owe us some millions of dollars. And then the company was like, actually, we're going to sue you.
Which raises my point about, I don't know that they're actually making any money with this company. Boucher, sort of, who was a wonderful businesswoman, basically built the for Raniere. And then
she was already a millionaire.
Yeah. And we started to get this sort of, it's been happening throughout, but from here on out, there's this sort of braiding between the past and the kind of present of the film, of the documentary series. So we get that kind of past. At the same time, this is the time of the Me Too sort of erupting on Twitter. And that is what leads the New York Times to run the NXIVM story after thinking about delaying it, because it fits the story of Dawson.
Suddenly now it's relevant. Yeah. A story about women being abused.
And meanwhile, we see Sarah reading the comments on the New York Times story, going on a radio show, although I'm pretty sure that was a reenactment because it did not look like an actual radio show. And then Catherine Oxenberg goes on Megyn Kelly, and the episode ends on the hopeful note that the New York Attorney General's office is now interested in the case. Episode 7 is all about the rise of Keith Raniere, the swindler. It braids Catherine Oxenberg's trying to gather up all this evidence for prosecutors with the story of Natalie.
Yep.
The other first woman, the first woman to leave. There's like, I'm the first woman.
Yeah,
no, I'm the first woman to leave.
Yeah, right.
The real first woman was Nancy Salzman. That's what we get at the end, I think. It's like hinted at.
To leave?
Not to leave, but the first woman involved the first woman to take a vow. There's a moment at the end of the last episode where they gesture toward this idea.
Just gonna do some anyway.
But I don't know. That's probably a season 2 thing. We hear about Consumer Byline, this multi-level marketing company that used group buying power. I don't know. It's unclear exactly what they were selling, but they made a lot of money. Eventually, Byline was shut down by prosecutors, although Raniere appeared to not be charged with anything. There's a lack of details there. Nancy Salzman was Tony's therapist, and she introduced Keith to Nancy.
Yes.
Who we learn is an expert in neuro-linguistic programming. Do you know what NLP? Have you heard of this before?
I have heard of it.
I'm only aware of it.
I
don't. Friend of the show, Suzanne Van Goons. She has a chapter in a book I edited about these 2000s era pickup artists.
Okay.
And how they use NLP.
Or how interesting.
They try to, so like
the way that they describe it on the documentary is that it's a kind of hypnotherapy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do
you want to give us a nutshell? What's NLP?
I don't know that much about it. It is based around the kind of, they call it neuro-linguistic programming, and they mean programming in the sense of it's a very if this then that way, and the idea is to try to get someone. It's almost a form of coercion where I know it more from Suzanne's work where she's talking about these pickup artists. So it's like if the woman says this, then you say that, and then if she says this, then you say that. Like And it's the idea that you're eventually going to like talk them into sex in this case. So there's a lot. It's like, I know there's a lot of stuff out there about it.
Rhetoric is a really important and strategic rhetoric is a very important character in all of this.
Yeah.
The way that we come to understand NXIVM as a program is very much that kind of conversational deliberation that then takes you to a place.
And I think I think it would be worth, I wish they had spent more time on it. Because I think a lot of that talk of technology and the kind of rational inquiry stuff they're talking about, it rung very NLP-ish to me. So like given more time and space and energy, like I think there's like something there that would be.
I thought it was a very well, and it's I guess this is Scientology adjacent as well, but it's in the name of self-exploration, trying to understand your own anxieties and fears in order, and hang-ups and neuroses, whatever, to then transcend those and become a freer, more successful, better version of yourself. What this ended up, like how it ended up playing out though, was a very kind of I know you are, but what am I sort of thing. Wherein if you say, you are, well, whatever. I don't know. Like, what's an example where like, if you say, I am afraid of X, then it's like, well, what is it in you that has actually, like, it's, I don't know.
There's this everything, like fear is never good in any form, which is not a healthy way to live your life.
And if you're critiquing someone, what it does is it makes it impossible for you to critique anything. Even though at one point Mark is talking about how Keith Raniere responds to bad press by saying, I don't want people who will just fall for this cult label. I want people who will be critical thinkers. But what it means in effect is if I say you are, judging me, then it's what about you feels like you need to be judged.
Yes. If you're like, I'm afraid of you, it's like, where's that fear coming from?
Where is that? It's always
because the whole
you can't critique someone else's behavior.
Yeah, and you can almost do a like 1-to-1 of like of rhetoric between Scientology and the NXIVM folks. Like instead of clear, there's at cause. But like the wrinkle is to be at cause is to recognize that everything, like you are in complete control and your choices are what does everything. The flip side of that means if something horrible happens to you, that was you're the cause.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're at cause, right? And so like along with the whole question of what it means to be a victim and who is a victim and how you don't ever want to be a victim. It's so like rampant throughout this.
And the through line, as far as I'm concerned, with not just, I mean, with so many of these groups that become popular, regardless, like inside of, they weren't calling themselves a religion.
No, they were a technology.
They were a technology. They were a science.
They were a personal development
But whether
program.
you're talking about MLMs, whether you're talking about wellness and self-help, whether you're talking about religions, whether like any of these organizations where social formation is based upon a message, like what we keep seeing again and again and again is the power of individualist rhetoric.
Oh yeah.
Where it's about you. And that is something that makes you feel like a superhero.
Yeah.
It's something that keeps you from feeling like a victim, but we're still going to talk about you as the problem in the process of saying that you're not a bit. Like, regardless of how you're labeling something, it's always about the power or the problem belonging to the individual and never a kind of awareness of or critical assessment of a system.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, I think that's 100% right. There's even one point where they say, like, maybe it was in the next, we'll talk about episode 9 in a second, then Mexico, where it says, like, the solutions will be from changing individuals.
Yeah.
Which is not that different from, like, Billy Graham saying that the way we change America is by getting everybody saved.
Well, or just, like the consumers buy-in company, or Firefest, or like, I mean, name or the leggings Lululemon,
Right.
or like it's all to do with, I'm going to speak to you about you.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful because it makes you feel seen and heard.
What was the Thoreau quote? Like, I wouldn't talk about myself so much if there wasn't another topic I could do more about, or something like that. I don't know how that fits in here. The episode 8 or 7 closes with Catherine Oxenberg walking into the New York State prosecutor's office with 3 binders of evidence.
Yes.
For some reason in the dark. I don't know. And then episode 8 dives into the gender ideology of Keith Raniere and how it made its way into... So there's 2 programs. There's Jeunesse.
Yeah.
And there's Society of Protectors, or SOP.
Jeunesse is for women.
Right. SOP is for men.
Women who are often, throughout this documentary, on all sides of the, like critics and followers of Raniere, often refer to the constituents of Jeunesse as girls, which I found really interesting.
There's a lot of girls.
There's a lot of girls rhetoric, which
very few boys, lots of girls.
The SOP is men, and the people who belong to Jeunesse are girls. Jeunesse, though, is sort of like the gateway organization to DOS. So
yes, that's what they decide. Yes.
Yeah.
And
anyway.
All of it's just like very misogynistic and very basic patriarchal gender essentialist bullshit. I mean, what was funny, like from my perspective, it was all like, you can hear a lot of this, not the various abusive practices of like doing push-ups and all that stuff we get to in a second, but the general ideology is in like every men's ministry or women's ministry in most Christian like conservative Protestant churches.
Well, I was gonna say, or just like again, it doesn't even have to be in a religious space. Like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Also, yeah,
It's very very like, men are necessarily at their core motivated by this set of very basic drives.
And that's why they destroy walls at Woodstock 99.
Women are at their core motivated by this other set of drives.
Yeah.
And to understand... Anyway.
Real manosphere incel stuff. We also get a section on how the women in Jeunesse went through the SOP course, led by the men, and how it was this incredibly abusive situation, how I think it was compared to the Stanford prison experiment. And then,
the Stanford prison experiment, just real quick, being the thing where like you take this group of people and you just assign a role of prisoner or guard to each group, and then give them just time and space, and the guards start being abusive and exploiting their power.
Apparently there's a documentary about that somewhere. Anyways,
we've talked about it a bit before, but like the idea behind it is that, in social situations, in groups, in situations where we belong to a group, then we start adopting the behaviors of the group over and against often our own sense of right and wrong. So that's why we said in the last conversation about Woodstock 99, like, arguably what ended up happening at Woodstock 99 is just social formation in action.
People being
this
people.
is our species just being the social animal that it is.
Yeah. There was one interesting part I liked. Not
that makes it better.
No, it doesn't. No. But Mark at one point, he kind of freaks out and he's like, nobody joins a cult. They join a good thing and then they realize they were fucked. I wanted to be, and this goes to your individual. He goes, I wanted to be a good guy.
Sure.
Which I think, to your point,
who's he saying that to? Do you remember the context in which he was
saying it to Bonnie?
And what was Bonnie saying? Do you remember why he kind of went on this?
Oh, because she was talking about, what was she talking about?
She was talking about, this is near the end of an episode where they're all kind of processing their own relationships to their involvement with these men and women's groups, right? And Bonnie is I forget who she's talking with, but they're kind of laughing about, oh my God, remember when I like critiqued something that Mark did or whatever, and then I had to sleep on the floor?
Oh, no. What it was Catherine Oxenberg had talked about visiting their home and seeing the bed, seeing a mattress on the floor next to the bed.
Yeah.
And not sure what that was about. Yeah. And Bonnie said, that was my penance.
That was my penance when I said something, about Mark. Yeah. And they were kind of like, they laughed about it. Now, what is interesting about this moment and why I am spending some time on it is that when they were talking about that, I didn't register that at all in any way as a kind of, I'm over this.
Oh, yeah.
This is okay. I have processed this completely. I am justifying anything that we did. But Mark, and I don't want to armchair psychoanalyze anybody. I'm just saying.
I will. But yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to do that. But Mark's response to that was like, this is too soon. No, it wasn't funny. And it was not okay for you to be treated that way.
Well, he goes, you're re-traumatizing her. You're re-traumatizing, like he like
you. He got like upset because he wanted her to understand her trauma.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, which is not to say at all that there is not really heavy, very complicated emotional processing to be done by men regarding the very limited social scripts that they are given by society. 10,000%, 10,000 million billion %. But there was this kind of like, you don't get to joke about this because this wasn't okay for you. And it's like, guy, she gets to do whatever she wants in relation to her own story. But he wanted to be a good guy. And he was the one. I mean, and again, I don't say this as like a laying blame thing. It's not he's the one, so he blah, blah, blah. It's just, again, how these dynamics emerge and evolve when Mark when he was fully engaged in NXIVM and Janess became a thing, he was like, well, I want a group. And goes to Keith and is like, well, men need to think about that too.
And Keith's like, I'm not trying to organize a ring of men, but whatever. I'll figure out how to use this anyways.
Well, and so, fine. Men can have a group, whatever. But again, it was a, I just think that even in the attempt at complicating traditional gender scripts, the very ways that sometimes we go about complicating them reproduce those same scripts.
Yes. So. And I do. The reason I wanted to highlight that I wanted to be a good guy is because it's this thing where it's like you said earlier, it's the individual talking about themselves as an individual.
Sure.
And it's like, if you want to be a good guy, you go do good things for people. That's like, right? Like, it's not, I wanted to do good for others.
And they thought that it was, they thought that the trainings, what's EM stand for? Emotional management. I don't know.
I don't remember.
The exercises that they would do to get people to work through their anxieties and stuff. I mean, they really, he and Sarah, and anybody who like worked their way up in NXIVM thought that they were doing exploration of meaning.
Why does that mean that for you?
Right.
Yeah.
I said emotional management.
That too.
By way of exploration of me.
But yeah, I
mean, I get arguably, I don't want to take anything away from what anyone's intentions were. I don't want to speculate on anybody's intentions or how they felt anything was operating. I don't know. He wanted to be a good guy. It is always
good guys don't say I want to be a good guy. Good people don't say I want to be a good guy.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I just think
it's
in the whole lots of ways.
It's the idea, and the idea that, and I guess this is more important in kind of like the interpersonal side than the general what Mark wants to do in the world, but like the idea that intention matters in a way that makes up in any way for harm is what I think bothers me. And that's what's behind that statement.
And, I
don't give a shit what you want to be, Mark. You hurt a bunch of people.
Well, yes, 100%. And and they talk about this later, again, or is it season 2? I don't know. But when NXIVM Mexico really kind of comes into...
That's the next episode,
they talk about it as a kind of trickle down ideology.
Yes.
Where like you aim for the rich and powerful and try to get them on your team, on your side, in your organization, so that then they will be better people in the world.
Right.
There is a lot of that kind of ego massage for rich and powerful people who want to have a cause.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to take anything away, I guess, from the genuine investment that someone has in a cause just because they're rich and powerful. I don't know, whatever. I guess it's that idea, though, of like, I'm rich and powerful, and so I have a cause, and I want to be a good guy.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to rely on that trickling down.
Right. I'm going to change, keep the faith in a film to change the world.
Nope. Anyway, okay.
Episode 9 is the story of NXIVM in Mexico. It starts with word from Frank, the blogger, that to Catherine Oxenberg that Keith Raniere has fled Albany for Mexico. At this point in my notes, I was just like, Frank to CO, that KR, Albany, Aero, Mexico.
Sure.
This segues into the story of ESP's expansion into Mexico. Among affluent and powerful families who face threats of kidnappings, Tony Zaratini, one of the most important ESP NXIVM people in Mexico, we meet him, but he left. He was actually kidnapped and escaped. And
can I real quick say ESP is the program? I don't know that we identified that. ESP is the program that NXIVM is the corporation. NXIVM is the company. ESP is their program.
And ESP, it started out as ESP, and then NXIVM became the umbrella term as they added all these other things to it.
Yeah.
The Mexico story is like braided with the story of Mark and Bonnie going back to Albany. This is the part that seemed the most production contrived of anything. Side note, on the plane, did you notice what book Mark was reading on the plane?
Mm-mm.
He was reading Janja Lalich's book for cult survivors, Take Back Your Life.
Janja Lalich shows up in
I think
this world. Sure.
Yes. I'm pretty sure she's the cult. There's a couple times they mentioned talking to a cult expert on the phone. I'm pretty sure that's who it was. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting.
Well, and
that he was reading that on the plane.
Rhetoric definitely it kind of has an uptick as you go through the episodes in the season. We don't hear a lot of cult stuff at the beginning.
You can actually kind of mark and Sarah et al.'s transition as the transition from saying company to cult.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we get the backstory of Mark, who decides to make a documentary about the Mexican kidnappings and the ESPers involved. And then we get this interesting scene where Mark is trying to show Keith a rough cut of the documentary he's made.
Yeah, like this documentary is when he is in NXIVM.
Yes,
like this is still
old footage.
Yeah.
He's trying to show Keith this documentary he's made that he really believes in. And Keith just shits all over it after like 30 seconds. And it's like, looks like I got a lot to do. I'll check it later. And
yeah.
But this is like the pattern you notice throughout of what Keith does is he just, anytime someone brings him something, he immediately just sort of negs it. Then Mark tells this story, or do we talk about this language of shifter and suppressor and the fall? And these are all languages around basically negative people or
Luciferic or something,
yes,
right?
Luciferians.
Yeah.
And we learned that Keith Raniere is super interested with psychopaths and sociopaths and kind of this weird relative morality stuff that is not surprising. And then Mark tells this interesting story about finding a document on his laptop labeled v.doc, meaning like Vanguard. And it's like a short story or
Vanguard is what they call Keith.
Vanguard is what they call Keith. Yes. But it's this short story about a man who's looking for a mentor and finds one in this company. And then the mentor tells him that there's a psychopath who's going to destroy everything in the company. And so they go on a search to find the psychopath. And then at the end of the story, the psychopath is the mentor.
Dun dun.
And
and
he had this, 10 years ago.
Sure.
I don't know. Is that real? I don't know. I'm suspicious that even actually is true.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Do you think it does?
In certain ways. So then we get Bonnie and Mark touring the various ESP locations, their old home. They go by the NXIVM office. They go to the volleyball court, which is covered in dead flies for some reason.
Keith was really into volleyball.
Yeah.
This is kind of like, there's not always something, but it reminded me of the documentary where we learned about the dancing
Budafield,
stage.
The Budafield, where he's like, they're building
everybody's going to dance.
Yeah, everyone's going to play volleyball from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. for some reason.
Volleyball.
And then he's going to give these little lessons. There's never a lot of time. They're just presented as like these weird quirks. But you know why though?
That very feature of just like, you're gonna get involved with my hobby.
But I think volleyball. So I play volleyball. I play pickup beach volleyball every summer.
Okay.
It starts, I guess it's sand volleyball technically because it's on a sand court outside a dorm on campus. But some friends of ours organized it. I try to go. I've only gone twice this summer. But there's something about volleyball, I will say, versus like basketball or any other. I've played a lot of pickup sports as an adult.
Okay.
Because of the way volleyball has, up to 12 people on the court at a time.
Okay.
And you're rotating, there is a lot of time. It's a very, very social game.
Okay.
Right. In a way that like I've played Ultimate Frisbee, and that's not because you're spread out more. Or there's a bigger group.
Okay.
And it's also, generally speaking, one where like there's the most parity among players who are playing it casually of any sport.
Got it.
Right. So I think that like, I don't know this, but the whole time I'm like,
you thought it was strategic?
I think he picked volleyball for a reason.
I thought he was just maybe into volleyball.
I could be wrong. I think that I think it's something that's easy if you just do it a lot to get pretty decent at.
I thought he was just in volleyball, but I am not a aficionado of pickup sports. And when I was put on my volleyball team in middle school because I was just really tall.
Yeah.
And then I was kicked off the volleyball team summarily because I kept showing up late for practice. I struggled with team spirit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Our mutual friend who organizes the volleyball gave out awards last summer, and I won best serve. So,
aw, congratulations!
I don't think
Mike.
I've played enough games this year to qualify for the awards, but
you're beaming inside, and I love it. I love it for you.
I'm just trying to be a good guy.
I mean, maybe my life would be fuller if I had like pickup sports in my life. I don't know.
I mean, I love But anyways, you should come play volleyball.
No,
it's almost over.
Perfect. That works great for me, actually. So your invitation is well timed.
So then we get the news that Keith has been arrested in Mexico and will be extradited to New York.
This is a big deal.
I also think this was a reenactment.
Okay.
I think this was so fake. They're like standing at the volleyball court when they get this news. Anyways, the FBI raid Nancy Salzman's house. Claire Bronfman is arrested and gets $100 million bail set because she's a Seagram's heir.
Well, she's very rich.
Keith, Lauren Salzman, Nancy Salzman, Claire Bronfman, and Allison Mack are all indicted. Should have stayed in Smallville. And
Lauren Salzman is Nancy Salzman's daughter. Yes. She was a bigwig in DOS. Allison Mack, we've talked about briefly, but I think it warrants being said, like, because she really is a subplot throughout this whole story because she's, I guess, the most famous.
And she's sort of the second. She appears to be the second in command of DOS behind Keith. She
is, well, I mean, as evidenced by the branding that spells out KR and AM. But she,
you don't think Keith did that to implicate her?
I just don't credit him with that much strategy, I guess. I just think he's a dude who doesn't know how to hear no. And he expects that he should get things because he's smart and can play the piano and has money and wants money.
Was a judo champion at 11.
There it is.
There's a lot of judo footage by the end. There's not a lot of lore though. There's like that's all we know about. That's all we know about.
Has a 200 and whatever the hell says IQ. He does. Yeah. I think, but you know, I mean, we've talked about this before. You know my take on all this. Like I think that we kind of create a bigger, I think we play into the idea of this sort of magic man by investing him with strategy and like evil lurking beneath the surface because there's some master plan, as if he's kind of like, you know, behind the scenes, always sort of puppeteering people instead of like what would we, what is gained or lost by that narrative? Mm-hmm. I guess it's maybe an ESP question, but still, what does
that mean for you?
and what happens to these stories if he's the head of an MLM who's also a sex criminal?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on the Charles Manson episode, right? Because there's similar vibe here. Like, how is he like? There's a whole lot of time spent to try to explain how did he, convince these women, right? It was the same thing. Like, how did Charlie get these girls?
He's this geek dude who is in charge of a company, and he's, he wears glasses, and he's just kind of a dude.
No one calls him charismatic, which is interesting.
No one calls him charismatic.
Like Charles Manson gets called charismatic and all these things. So there's an interesting.
But we don't hear in this documentary from a lot of cult experts, quote unquote.
True.
We hear from, like, we've talked about this before too. And this is why I would love to talk with someone who makes these documentaries or who has a hand in these choices, because when it is that we hear from experts versus, or in relation to when we hear from insiders, and participants, former members, whatever, versus when we hear from like prosecutors and officials, versus like there are different kinds of characters, like clumps of characters that show up in these stories. And, I wonder if we don't hear about charisma because we're not talking to people for whom charisma is an insider term that is used to make meaning about this kind of character.
Yeah.
We do start hearing cult rhetoric as people defect and get, kind of like educated in the
English books, right?
And have a new language for what they experienced. So now they're looking to make meaning, and cult is this second order term that is applied to things to make meaning of them.
Yeah.
In a similar sense, we're not hearing from experts, with this second order term. We're hearing from insiders and former members. So we're going to get a different vocabulary that comes with that.
That makes sense.
Because you see a lot of the kind of starry-eyed, like, what you're saying is so smart. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Like, you see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Lots of video. Because again, it's sort of like Buddhafield, where we're hearing about it from this documentary filmmaker.
That's very similar.
So this documentary filmmaker, Mark Vicente, like, he's recording everything all the time.
Yeah.
It's also why we have so many audio clips, because he also records and makes a habit of recording
everything,
every single phone conversation that he ever has. Whatever.
It's funny. I mean,
I just don't live a life where that would be like useful at all in any way. And I love that about my life, but I also probably think it makes me naive or something. I don't know.
I just think it's interesting how many of these documentaries exist.
But it also tells you about what kind of...
Yeah, because these groups have somebody who records a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So, anyway, I just think that with different levels of involvement, we get different vocabulary, and it tells us something about language and how it works and who it belongs to.
Last little piece from the last episode. There's a moment where they're showing some archival footage where Nancy is talking to Keith and says something about her vow to him, which I thought was a kind of foreboding idea of like, there's an ongoing thing about this is the first woman and this is the first, and that in some ways, when it comes to this idea of like this lifelong vow, that Nancy is the kind of original. Mm-hmm. And again, there's so much more. I think Nancy is more compelling to me than Keith in a lot of ways.
You should watch season 2 then, because you do get to hear from her.
Then there's a call from prison, and it's Keith, and he wants to talk.
Yes, he does.
Cliffhanger, season ending, and I didn't have time to watch season 2.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. All right,
we already have plenty to talk about.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, kind of exactly that I was just saying. Like, the power of rhetoric is something that really struck me. While I was watching this, when early on, because early you have to kind of set up what it is that compels people, what it is that attracts people to this group or this leader or whatever. And not unlike Billy McFarland when he was trying to collect investors for the Fyre Fest, and he was describing what it was about. I found the descriptions of what ESP and NXIVM were like. So what actually is this organization, or what is this curriculum or whatever? The descriptions, I think the whole thing plays out like it's a long and sordid tale. The lesson from which should be about why it's important to take classes in rhetoric and composition, why these are required classes in college. So here's Keith Raniere's description of ESP. A methodology for optimizing or enhancing human experience and behavior.
Sure.
Here's Barbara Boucher's description of what Keith was up to. The founder of this model has come up with an understanding of how the mind works, broken it down into a formula in a fashion of mathematics that's reproducible, therefore creating and making it a science. The strings of prepositional phrases. What do any of these things mean? But that is not actually how math and science works. I'm clearly getting very worked up. That's not how that works. And if anybody took a second to say, do you need to pause and fix my mic? No, I'll fix it while I
got it. This is why you should watch the video, folks.
No, you should definitely not. This is on our blooper reel. No, it's not working, Mike. Okay.
You're tighten the other thing.
The other thing?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Podcast is a visual medium. Perfect.
So, oh yay. Okay. A model of an understanding of how the mind works.
But okay, you're not on LinkedIn.
Optimizing for enhancing human experience. I mean, none of that makes sense to me.
Right, but here's my point though.
On a paper from a student, I would say.
Right.
Can you be more specific? Is there some clarity that you can add here?
Okay, but here's what I get your point.
But you're going to spend thousands of dollars for a 5-day workshop to enhance human experience and behavior.
I get your point.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to find a good example.
But we do this all the time. I'm not saying that it is
right. It's the language of business schools. It's the language.
Well, it's the language of a lot of things.
Yes.
It's just, again, like, I think that we are compelled by ideas that sound big. And often what stands in for big is vague. And those two things can kind of get conflated sometimes. And the more sort of fuzzy something sounds, well, then the more universal it must be or something.
Yeah.
This is counterposed, but still in the vein of the power of rhetoric, with the way which you were talking about with those gender-specific workshops, how just men and women are categorically these two things.
Right.
And the specificity with which, and the clarity with which I can just cut through an entire group of human beings,
right,
and flatline any kind of human variance is also really compelling to people, because it just sounds so, it's easily digestible. It's so there is
I'm now reconsidering all of my generational theories from the last episode.
I don't love generational logic, as you know.
No.
It's whenever but in both cases, rhetoric helps us to invent and manufacture easy meaning about a really complicated phenomenon.
Right.
So human existence is messy. Human experience is really complicated.
Yeah.
Let's say something that's either so vague as to render it nonsensical, or so categorically simplistic as to render it digestible. Like, in either case, you're trying, it's very compelling. The power of rhetoric is real.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I had this as, I had it and I deleted it, but I'm going to come back to it. Because I was thinking about this, like, so much of what people are talking about, they're trying to find in this thing, or they found in this thing. Like, so much of it, especially this struck me in the Jeunesse SOP episode, is like, human, like, maybe it's always been this way. I don't know enough to know. But at least in this current 21st century moment, like, people really don't know how to relate to each other.
Sure.
And so there's like a lot of that rhetoric is either meant to give you a vague sense of purpose as an individual, or with that very specific stuff is to make those, what you're saying, the very complicated phenomena of two people who are trying to coexist in some way, like, easy. So men are this way, women are this way. And so like, and I think this is particularly acute amongst middle to upper class straight white people for a variety of reasons. But that's why when I was like, oh, this Jeunesse SOP stuff, like, you can find that at any, suburban megachurch or whatever. I think it's because there are so many couples who do not know what they're doing.
Sure.
And are looking for these easy answers. And I think that's, to me, like, and I think the documentary gets at that with both Sarah and Nippy and Bonnie and Mark. Like, there's a lot going on there that is about, that comes off as being about, like, we were in a cult or whatever, but it's really just about, like, trying to figure out, like, what am I doing with this person here? And, like,
well, and I don't know that that phenomenon of just, like, human relationships is more or less complicated of what, I don't know. I mean, I think we just kind of have different contexts to attach to it. But the context that people now can attach to it is that it belongs inside of, it has become a subset of the way that we manufacture and market wellness culture.
Oh, yes.
And so relational wellness culture that like, I have created a formula. And if you do X, Y, and Z, you'll be able to figure out yourself. You'll be able to figure out your spouse.
Yes.
You'll be able to figure out the world around you. And it's like, I can just buy that.
Right.
Cool. But only if you're the kind of person who can buy it.
Well, insofar as like,
it's no accident that all of the people who we hear from belong to a very specific demographic.
Yes.
Inside of season 1.
And if you think about Twin Flames, this, even something like IBLP, the thing in the Duggar documentary, those all equate like marriage with success. Like to be successful is to have a partner, have this thing, have this thing, have this thing. Now, like what that looks like is obviously different across those three, but like it's still, insofar as that is equated with, like so much of this was about success, which like success, I mean, what does that even look like? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're talking about vague rhetoric, the rhetoric of success
totally.
is so like tied up, what vague
it's
and
so
just
vague.
like,
but it is attached to, it comes freighted with very real dollars.
Yes.
Like it makes oodles of money.
Yes.
And as you know, the rhetorician and grammarian that lives in my head is just like it breaks my brain, which I don't.
Well, because it both like it like creates, it is rhetoric that is meant to create a lack and then also create a vague thing that's supposed to solve that lack, but never completely, because that's what keeps you buying and going and going and going, right?
And in every case, I mean, we talked about this a little bit already, but in every case, there's a emphasis on you, the individual.
Yeah.
And whether you're being praised or critiqued, whether you're moving up in the company or being asked to do push-ups because whatever, like, I don't know, the way, the verbal abuse, the verbal attacks from these SOP workshops to women.
Yeah.
In the name of empowering women was unreal. But there we like it when things are about us. And so in every case, whether you are being the power of personal accountability or personal, everybody is on their journey. And that's why you hear Mark talk about wanting to be a good guy. Right. It's why you hear about Sarah's story about being a struggling actress. And then like everybody has their story to tell, which is wonderful. The personal is political.
Yeah.
Though. And so when we take the personal to be an end in itself, that the story of this company is a story about me.
Yeah.
And when the company is recruiting people because of the power of one person's story, and then if you can do this, I can do this too. And if like, that's where it lives in a vacuum of individualism and about personal responsibility, accountability, access, autonomy. Like but we fail to think about, and it doesn't make us think about. And so in that sense, it's very challenging and abusive in loads of ways, potentially, but the appeal, at least as I read it, right? Like this is my interpretation. The appeal is that we are not having to go to that political place. We're not having to look at the systemic structural questions. We are looking at men and women as individual caricatures.
Yeah.
Rather than structural gender scripts and dynamics that are immensely complicated.
Yeah. And I think like also that there is like that individual story about you. One of the things that Raniere does when there's the clips from the SOP is he kind of he tells stories that seem structural because they seem big, right? Like every boy a girl. He tells this story about like you're a boy on the playground and a girl takes her toy and pushes you down, and you go to hit her back and someone grabs your wrist and says no. And so that feels on one level like it's not structural, right?
At all.
It's universalized. But it feels like it's operating on some larger level.
It's one story that is extrapolated into a universal truth.
It's the difference. It's very archetype. It's an archetypical, very Joseph Campbell moment, right? And so I think that it doesn't necessarily always it hides that feeling of it's all about you,
which is not at all for a single second to say that personal storytelling is not important.
No,
that someone's experience is not relevant. It is all kinds of relevant, but our personal experiences, like if we think about that, second wave feminist adage of the personal being political, like that's what that asks us to take stock of, is that personal experience is part of a positionality.
Yeah.
And that positionality is very much societally informed. Let's think about those structures and those formations that are creating a personal experience that then you, the individual, can talk about.
Right.
Like it's this Mobius strip.
But I think and I think we're getting more and more. There are more and more places where, especially this rhetoric, whether it's success or that hyper individualized, but coming with it a kind of a vague evaluation of the good, the successful, the healthy, whatever. Like there's just more and more of that. Like it's
sure.
Like the idea of like that you have to evaluate, did I do this well? Am I doing this the right way? And it's with some vague measure of
And I wonder if again, I have so many production questions, as I know you do, but I wonder if this documentary would have had so many episodes with so many of these individual sub-stories if these people were not rich, if we were not looking at Catherine Oxenberg.
Yeah.
Make a phone call wherein she says, please call Prince Charles and get a direct line to the Dalai Lama. Like we are watching, it's Secret Life of Mormon Wives. It's like, we're not getting, again, like the
Real Housewives
reason
of Albany.
I found Brandy Hellville an interesting documentary was because it was a personal story in order to talk about fast fashion. This is a personal story in order to tell us about these personal stories. And they matter. They matter. Just like structural sex abuse is absolutely something we should talk about. But the what we find compelling is never a bigger story.
It's interesting.
It's a takedown of this dude.
It's interesting to compare it to what was the name of the Holy Hell? Is that the name of the Buddha filled one?
Yes.
Because that's a hyper personal, like I am the guy in the thing making the documentary.
Yeah.
But I think it's not as direct as Brandy Hellville, where they're like, no, let's talk about all the clothes in the ocean.
Right.
But to me, it did a better job of at least being more about questions of dealing with your own sense of self. Like it was universalizing from this particular example in a way, community, right? Yeah, in a way that this one I don't think was. I have the same. I have a ton of production questions about like, you have two actors and a documentary filmmaker as the subjects of this documentary film.
Sure.
There were so many moments that felt
production turtles all the way down.
Yeah, it just felt like I don't think it matters at a certain level. But I actually think that most documentaries are like this in a variety of ways. But I just think to me, I had a lot of questions about, I wish I'd have known, like, all right, how much was Mark Vicente involved in the storyboarding of this? How much of the sort of plot points were like,
right.
Because
he was recording all of those conversations too.
Yeah. And like Oxenberg is in this and the other NXIVM documentary. There's an article.
She made that one.
Oh, she made that one.
I think so. Okay. I think that or at least she was involved in it was like a mother story or something.
And I mean, how much of this is just Catherine Oxenberg trying to make sure that India doesn't get arrested like Ali Mack? Because she didn't leave it. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, again, I don't personally need the answers to those questions, but I do think that one of the primary things that gets us absorbed in docudramas like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is because that, for example, is ostensibly some kind of bigger story about, like, it's got a hook. It's got that sort of, these are women who exist in multiple worlds at once. And so their church has this gender script, but they are influencers with this kind of, like, they're performing multiple gender scripts simultaneously, and that's kind of interesting. But there is never some sort of, we're not going to learn about the Mormon church or the history of gender dynamics therein by watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So it's not ultimately about, it's like you come in for the, I don't know, that interesting storyline, you stay for the characters.
Yeah.
And I think here too, you come to kind of know Catherine Oxenberg, and she's really compelling, and she's not just the actress on Dynasty anymore. She's this, like, there's I don't know.
No, I get that. There's it made me think about, I was looking this up while you're talking. There's on TikTok at It's Live on Air. It's Liv behind the scenes bestie. She's a former reality TV producer who now does little TikTok videos of different segments of reality shows she's watching and explains, like, here's how they probably did that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I love it.
Peek behind the
could
curtain.
Eat it up. Because there was a lot of like, I mean, this is like pro wrestling fan brain. Like, what's real here, what's not, and it's all actually a mix of the two at all times, right? And then trying to figure out what's going on. That was what I felt a lot in this documentary. Not that that's not the case in all the documentaries, but just sometimes the seams, I think, show more than others.
You're
like, I don't care.
No. Well, I'm trying to think about what it is that, because I'm clearly compelled by something. Like, the reason that we started this podcast was because we were both watching all these documentaries.
Right.
So what is, if I'm not interested in whether something is real or not, and that's true, or if this scene was produced, or if, like, whether they staged the, volleyball court moment or not, you're right. I don't, but then what is because I'm a conceptual thinker, but then, like, why?
So
anyway,
I guess I'm
interested in how all of these things.
I was listening to a podcast. There's a podcast, one of my favorite sports podcasters, Stephen Godfrey, has a podcast called Phantom Island. Okay. And they had an episode. It's generally about sports. They ask one question and they'll have, like, what's the U.S. Olympic flag football team going to look like? Like, what does that even mean? Right. Okay. Or all sorts of stuff. But one of them was, do professional wrestling fans need to know what's real and what's not to enjoy it? And they had a guest on to talk about it. And they ended the episode. And this is when I had this lightning bolt moment of, like, this is what the title of my book needs to be. Mm-hmm. They signed off by saying, don't get worked. Working being the fake part of wrestling that's supposed to fool you. And if you get fooled, you got worked. I think part of these documentaries is someone is always getting worked, right? Like, that's the whole premise of, you don't try to join a cult, you join this thing you think is good and whatever. I think that I find these documentaries interesting on another level because the documentary themselves are often trying to work you so I'm always trying to ask myself, how is this documentary? Because there's so much shame and blame and guilt that comes with these stories for various people involved. What's the angle that these documentaries are working versus on top of the story that that the people involved with are often working? How is Mark Vicente working us or the producers? Like, this was my question about all the way back to the Hillsong documentary. The first episode is like, oh, this is a this is a reclamation project for these people, right? And then a couple weeks later, he gets a new podcast, right?
Right.
Like, to me, that's, I think, the part of it. Not that I don't like, you can't not get work like this. You'll never succeed in not getting fooled.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to see what the angle is, to me, I think what it is.
Okay.
I don't know if that, but which isn't about if it's real or not.
It's like you're into the mechanics of it.
That's right.
You're into the like, like whatever, the people who take apart clocks and are able to see how they work. Which
taking apart, yes.
And I really love. I like sentence diagramming, so that appeals to me.
Yeah.
But I guess because maybe I never see, as soon as you get on camera, as far as I'm concerned, it's not that you're not, I guess there's just, it's already so, it's why I don't mind spoilers either.
Right.
I don't mind spoilers because, well, I think a lot of people hate spoilers. And it makes sense.
I don't mind spoil if I don't want to be spoiled for a well done swerve.
It makes sense to me because if you are invested in being like on the ride.
Yeah. Do you like magicians?
Sure.
Like you don't like, but if you see a magician on the street, how long are you standing there?
I don't know.
I'm standing there the whole time until like, he is done. Yeah. I'm like, I want to see all of this.
I mean, I think that but again, like, I don't know, maybe I like Columbo too. Because for me, like knowing who the murderer is and how they did it right up front, it doesn't mess up the narrative arc, because the narrative arc is about the kind of interrelations and the ways that people engage with their own lack of knowing.
Right.
And that's interesting to me. Speaking of which, this is my little side note. Because I don't feel like it's a cult favorite, but if Aaron Jaffe, the brilliant Aaron Jaffe, wrote for University of Minnesota Press, spoiler alert, A Critical Guide, 2019.
Interesting.
It's online, and you can. It's a lovely, like, kind of critical engagement with some of these questions of what it means to read text and receive and respond to text, and what our expectations are. Like what a kind of,
Yeah. I mean, if there's like a
mode of reading,
there's like a live event,
moment.
Live event, or like that I like decide to time shift watching.
Yeah.
I will be stressed and like avoiding social media because I don't want to know.
Interesting.
What happened.
I mean, I don't want to know what, like, tennis is the only sport that I like pay attention to in a competitive way. Like that bums me out if I can't watch a tennis match in real time and I learn who wins.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah.
But even though it bums me out, I'll still watch it.
Yeah. Oh, I will still.
You know what I mean?
For sure. If it gets spoiled,
so I don't know, but that functions very differently in my brain than narrative does. And narrative is, I mean, not that there are not loads of narrative conceits that get structured
sports writers everywhere.
100,000%.
Shaking their
100,000%
at the podcast.
It is it has a narrative arc in its own right. For sure. It just, I don't know. Anyway, these are interesting things to think about.
Do you have a takeaway?
I guess my takeaway is I don't know. I'm going to be thinking about these questions that we have just been engaging in for a while. So I guess that's my takeaway. It's just that I think it's interesting and important to think about our own modes of engagement to storytelling and to structural realities and systemic harms. And just the very fact that the media did not fancy these people's stories as a story until the Me Too movement was on the rise.
Yeah.
Like, is its own.
Yeah.
You know, like that, like this is in so many ways, it's a phenomenon about narrative. It's a story about narrative. And and so to think about what narratives compel us, which ones don't, why not? It's also who gets to tell them when we pay attention.
And a narrative that is told because of its particular, like you said, the particular moment of the actual, when this all happened during the Me Too thing in 2018, 19, but then the fact that it, as we said at the beginning of this whole thing, that it showed up during COVID when it did, like so much of this whole phenomenon of the NXIVM thing is a product of a kind of particular historical moment of the late 2020s or late 2010s. I mean, yeah. My takeaway, I'm gonna steal from Barry Meyer.
Okay.
The New York Times reporter.
Yeah.
I'll put the link. He has a really interesting review of both. He appears in both documentaries, both the what's it called?
Oxenberg and
this one. Yeah. And he has a review of both of them. Like people kept asking which one do you think is better, and so he wrote a short Times column about both of them. It's worth the read.
Yeah.
But in the documentary, in the vow, he says because the producers ask him, why was this a story newsworthy to you? And he says it was how extraordinarily vulnerable we are as people, and how even people who on the surface are bright, capable, talented, successful in many ways have this intense vulnerability, and that vulnerability is available for someone to exploit.
Sure.
That to me was, I think, a piece of a huge part of this that I think fits sort of all of these stories is like, because I remember in college taking my NRMs, my New Religious Movements class, which is what they called cults, in the 90s and 2000s, and reading all of these like, deprivation theories by like these sociologists like Pinky and Stark, who are just sociologists for those who don't care, about like, oh, people join cults because they need X or because they don't have enough Y or because of these. And it's like, to your point earlier, it's like, no, whether it's the pickup volleyball or whatever, human beings are going to join groups. We're in that sense, we are vulnerable in that we are group creatures, and some of those groups are going to suck in really harmful ways. Yeah. And we're all like, we're all vulnerable to that. And I think it's not I'm not trying to say that like anyone can join a cult. It could happen to you. It's just like, no, people join stuff, and it's hard to know what stuff to join sometimes.
But isn't it interesting how, like, even in the structure of his sentence, vulnerability is counterposed with being bright, capable, talented, and successful?
Yes. No, yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that like that whole idea, this is how that, I hear what you're saying, and I totally agree with you.
We're all vulnerable though.
And also, so then what does that word mean? And what does that, like I think that the way, I think it's one of those ways that the media genre of cult documentary or true crime documentary about well-meaning people taken in by exploitative like leaders it relies upon this dichotomy of, intelligence versus vulnerability, capability versus vulnerability, talent versus, anyway.
No, that makes sense.
But I'm not really even making a point so much as just to say that that's another piece of rhetoric we should pay attention to. What's your call favorite? You got one?
I got kind of two.
Oh, good. One, I'm struggling for one today.
One is the new Clips album. Do you know Clips?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Pusha T and Malice are back together. They have a new album. It's very good. So go listen to that. The my favorite song on it so far is POV, which features Tyler the Creator, who also has a new album out. That's my segue.
Okay.
So Don't Tap the Glass is his album. It's so weird. It's one of his weirdest albums. I mean, he's always been weird, but Yeah, it's weird. It's got some songs that sound like disco rap. It's I've enjoyed it. The one of my kids who really likes hip hop does not get it and hates it, but it's fine. But anyways, so those are my two. Go find them on Spotify or wherever.
I mean, I can also do an album, I guess. I'm digging. I'm still kind of like, I'm still sort of learning it. I'm still spending time with it. But the new Perfume Genius album, Glory, I like it a lot. I
do not know Perfume Genius. I don't know.
Buddy.
I don't know things.
I mean,
I don't know much of anything about
Mike
these things.
Adrias is Perfume Genius, and their collaborations with Aldous Harding on Glory. And Aldous Harding, just le swoon. So Aldous Harding rules. She's collaborating with him at Perfume Genius. Go listen to Perfume Genius in general. Then, yeah.
I will.
And he put out an album in March of this year. The reason that came to mind is because I've been listening to it while I'm doing a lot of cleaning and reorganization in my office.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, I guess, also put it's like a big drink of water for my brain. So I'm gonna put a plug for like autumnal cleaning, fall cleaning instead of just spring cleaning. Fall. Almost. I mean, but it's for the fall.
July
it's for
30th.
yeah, but it's for the fall. Like if we're thinking in terms of academic calendar, it's fall cleaning for me. And I think that, like, so while I'm while I am involved in fall cleaning, I'm also listening to the new Perfume Genius album.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And
we don't know what we're watching next time.
We don't know.
Pay attention to the socials.
To the socials. We may do season.
Give you a heads up there.
There is a new Shiny Happy People.
We'll talk. You and I.
She made a face. Those of you only listening on the audio version, a face was made.
I don't know. I mean, we can. You
know me. I just want to follow the trends. Everybody's talking about it. So I want to jump on the trend.
But you don't want to watch season 2 of The Vow.
Why would I want to watch that? That's not a trend. That's no.
It's a follow up though. It's a second. Anyway,
people should tell us what to watch. We'll find something. We've got lists.
We should start taking votes.
Should.
Okay.
Yeah, but thanks for listening to Cult Favorite. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a rating or review. Pay attention. I think Instagram, TikTok. Those are the main places that I have time and energy to post.
What are the other ones that you should? Where do the people hang out? I don't know.
I don't know where the people.
Snap.
I
Snap.
Oof. No.
Place.
Not on the Snap things. No.
Tick Snap.
We'll do. We are on YouTube if you want to watch this. Because it's and then Instagram is where we will build a community of listeners, and then TikTok is where we'll post random stuff and hope people find us. And
I'm about as good at social media as I am with pickup sports.
Sure. And then special thanks to the Department of Religious Studies at the University of Alabama. And we will see y'all in 2 weeks where we'll talk about something.